Every leader at some point faces a moment that feels final. Project that collapsed, a team that fell apart, a decision you made that you can't take back. And at that moment, whether it lasted a day or a month or longer, probably felt like the story was over. Question I want to ask you today isn't whether that moment will come. It will. The question is this: do you believe it's really the end? I'm Bill, and this is the greatest leadership story ever told. A 5-episode series where we look at the good news of Jesus, not just as the most important story in history, but as the most complete picture of leadership ever lived. Today, we're talking about the most powerful leadership lesson in the greatest story ever told. And it all hinges on one word: Sunday. I want you to picture Friday evening. The disciples are scattered, hiding behind locked doors. Everything they had given the last 3 years of their lives to, every miracle they've witnessed, every teaching that they followed, and every hope they carried, it was dead, buried in a tomb outside the city. From every angle, it was over. There was no plan B, no backup strategy. There was no meeting scheduled on Monday morning to regroup. The leader they had trusted was gone, and they had no framework for what came next. Now, I've never been in that exact situation, but I have sat with leaders who looked a lot like those disciples in the upper room. Defeated, confused, wondering if everything they had built meant anything at all. And then Sunday came. Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb before sunrise. The stone had been rolled away. Then she runs to tell the disciples. Peter and John then run to the tomb. And what they find isn't an empty tomb that raises questions. It's an empty tomb that answers the deepest one. John chapter 20 tells us that when the disciple Jesus loved walked in and saw the burial clothes lying there, he saw and believed. Here's the thing I want you to hold on to. The stone wasn't rolled away to let Jesus out. It was rolled away to let the witnesses in. The resurrection wasn't just a miracle. It was a declaration, the loudest declaration in human history, that the last word does not belong to failure. It does not belong to defeat. It doesn't even belong to the moments that feel final. It belongs to the God who authors the story. I've had the privilege of watching people walk through some of the hardest moments of their careers. Failed projects, broken teams, leaders who made a call that cost them credibility or trust. And here's what I've seen in the ones who came back stronger. They didn't let Friday define them. They stayed in the story long enough to see Sunday. That doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. The disciples weren't numb on Friday. They were devastated. Staying in the story means you don't close the book. Maybe you're in a Friday season right now, a setback you didn't see coming, a team that's struggling, season of leadership that has felt like one disappointment after another. I want to say this to you directly. Don't close the book yet. The best leaders I've known are not the ones who never failed. They're the ones who refuse to let failure write the final chapter. Here it is. Great leaders don't let failure, setbacks, or dead ends define their final outcome. It's not because they're naive, but because they know the story isn't finished. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 55, "Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting?" That's not a taunt. That's a reminder for leaders, for anyone in a season that feels like it's over. It's a reminder that resurrection is real and it changes how we lead. So here's what I want to leave you with today. Where in your leadership, in your life, do you need to remember that Friday is not the final word? Whatever that is for you right now, I hope this gives you permission to stay in the story. Don't miss our last episode in this series next week. It's going to be an amazing finish. I'll see you in the next episode of the greatest leadership story ever told.